And hello. How you doing? God bless you. We're just going to have a little chat today, man. I wanted to talk about a few things, the nature of evil and our recent history of the United States, some things that we might not be aware of. This isn't conspiracy stuff, guys. This is real, very real stuff that I want to talk about here. Hey, Conrad, how you doing? God bless you. Good to see you. And there's a link there, Conrad. If you or Jamie, anybody wants to drop on in and discuss this with me, should be a really good discussion. I want to read something from the book of Ephesians. For we do not wrestle. This is from the ESV, by the way. We do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. And I know we read this. I know we believe it. I know we take it seriously. I don't charge anybody with not taking this serious. God bless you, Conrad. So I don't charge anybody with not taking this serious. But I have to wonder at so many things. When we look around at the state of the churches, guys, be honest, let's admit it. We have a less than stellar report we can present. A lot of times we should probably apologize to the world for some of the things that we show them. And, I know that most of us are really into the word, and we're aware that we're in a real warfare, that this isn't a game, that our souls are at stake, and that people not only want to destroy our souls, they also want to destroy our testimonies so that they can destroy the souls that we may influence. And that does bear repeating. Sometimes it's not just about destroying us. Sometimes it's about destroying our testimony before other people. But we have to understand one thing. Evil is working toward its end. And what is the end of evil? Is total annihilation. He wants to wreck God's plan, bring it to an end, make it impossible to fulfill. Now, we walk through this world pretty lackadaisical. We certainly don't act like we're in a warfare most of the time, do we? Come on, let's be honest. I ain't beating nobody over the head. I ain't stepping on anybody's toes. I'm just saying that's the way we are, man. We're human. And a lot of times we look for the easy ways out. And a lot of times we just don't sit and vigil like we ought to. We don't. The scripture says that all of the virgins, all 10 of them, slumbered and slept, and that's all it takes for evil to take over. It wasn't just the 5 foolish that were slumbering and sleeping. They all slumbered and slept. Okay? All of them. But I don't think that we know how strong our adversary is many times. We have let me make an illustration. Some people buy into this, like when it comes to the United States government, world governments, etc. Some people buy into the paradigm of left versus right. I've quit buying into that. Not that it's not real, but in that it is instigated and regulated and designed to give a particular outcome. You see, when it comes to the United States of America, we, the people, give our representatives $200,000 a year, whereas corporate interests give them hundreds of millions of dollars a year. So who are you going to legislate for? Of course, you're going to legislate for the people that put you into office. And that's why it doesn't matter if you put in the left or the right. They pass the decisions, they make the decisions that are going to make their real constituents rich. Power does corrupt. And in this system, it takes a whole lot of money to stay in it and to keep enriching from it. But boy, the return is out of this world. It turns people into billionaires, literally. You see, Satan has been at this a very, very, very long time. Satan was fallen and in the garden when we were made. Think about that. Scripture says that, the sons of God rejoiced when they saw God create us and the universe, the stars. Said they rejoiced. So how many tens of thousands of years or hundreds of thousands of years or millions of years were they here before us? I don't know. I do know they've had over 6,000 years to study man, and that we're nothing to be manipulated. We manipulate so easily. This leads me into something that I want to talk about in the morning. Hey, Sir Serwin Vega. Good to see you, buddy. Hello, Ben. Good to see you, brother. Well, have a great day to you too, my friend. God bless you. Thank you for popping in. 8:20 there. It's 3:20 a.m. here. My goodness, I know I still have to get to sleep, guys. But I'm going to be doing a video in just a few hours when I wake up, and it's going to be a video on the occult part of the occult history of the United States. And I'm not going to go into a whole big long background, back into the 1840s and 1770s and 1490s. No. I'm not going all the way back into that. I want to bring you something that is more pertinent, more up to date. And I want to cover with you what I believe has been a coup. Sir Vega, you're absolutely right. I do. I do need to snort some coffee. Yeah, but in the morning, I plan on doing a video on something that I believe happened to America in 1963. I believe that we had a literal takeover of the United States. And that's okay, Jamie. That's cool, buddy. Rest. Hang on, listen, maybe you can pop in the morning and help me out. Because in the morning, I want to go into detail on some of this. In the morning, we're going to study a guy called Jack Parsons. If you want to do a little pre-research on Jack Parsons, he was a protege of a member of the OTO and a protege of Aleister Crowley. He was also like the best friend of the guy that invented the Church of Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard. Yes, student of the beast. That's exactly right, Jamie. L. Ron Hubbard, that invented the Church of Scientology, he was Jack Parsons' best friend. He also ripped Jack Parsons off $20,000 and ran off with his wife. But yet and still, Jack Parsons, with no college degree, guys, was I guess you could say, the world's foremost rocketeer man at the time, or at least one of them. He was probably America's most valued rocket scientist at the time, even though he had no degree. Really interesting. But the man was deep in the OTO. Sir Sherwin Vega says that his friend's daughter married the great-grandson of Crowley. Yeah, Jamie, that's exactly right. Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Now, as a matter of fact, I'll tell you what, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory was named the Jet Propulsion Laboratory after Jack Parsons, had come to work for him. And so I believe that it was named JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, as a nod, a tip of the hat to Jack Parsons. I could be wrong. Could be, but I believe it. Morning, Oxfordshire. Good to see you, Andy. What do I think of Jordan Maxwell? Well, Jordan Maxwell can be interesting. He has some interesting stuff that he puts out there at times. I believe he's a showman. I believe he's out there on a circuit to make some money. I believe that's what he does for a living. Sometimes the stuff he puts out there is interesting, and some of it is factual, and some of it I question. But I won't say anything bad about him. I do believe that a lot of the things that he puts out there is very good, very interesting. But I don't endorse him personally. That's just me, though. So, at any rate, in the 1940s, we had something really interesting happen. In the in the early 1900s, we had World War One, the war that would end all wars, and then we had the build up to World War Two, and we were restrained, but suddenly we were bombed and we jumped in. Hey, that's okay, Andy. Typos are cool. So, World War One, I guess you could say, the powers that be have always been dependent on war. War was always an opportunity if you were rich. It always presented an opportunity to enrich yourself and your nation and what have you. Or you could plunge yourself into disaster. So it was always a gamble. And sometimes people lost. But sometimes it paid off huge. Well, during World War One and World War Two, we had some changes happening in our financial system. We got a central bank that began to print our money for us. Blah blah blah. That didn't help us none because they loaned it. They encouraged us. Oh yeah, borrow from us. We're going to print it for you. But you can't just have it. You got to borrow it, even though it's yours. Man, what a what a money trap that is for the citizens of the nation, isn't it? I guess a lot of hands were greased to help bring that through. And during the time it was brought into, of course, it was brought in with great stealth as they used the holiday season and the fact that everybody was away with their families to bring in the vote during that time. But, there was a lot of people probably complicit in that even to make sure that nobody showed up. That, and at any rate, money plays a big part of this. Because out of all of this sprang the military industrial complex, which then has to take in the media and pay them off big time. It's got to influence society with movies and his songs and all kinds of things. So they conspire to present a matrix, an illusion before the people of why we need war. And look at this person, they're doing this. And sometimes we would go over, and we know this is true from declassified documents. Sometimes we would just go over and start crap. We just go over and blow somebody away. Maybe the leader wouldn't work for us. Maybe we couldn't corner their drug market, whatever the case may have been. We did a lot of that. We tried to blow away Castro for a very long time. And we always failed. We just couldn't get him. But we kept trying trying led us to Operation Northwoods. Operation Northwoods, you can look it up. It's a declassified document. It's got all of the signatures right there for you to see it. All of the Joint Chiefs of Staff signed off on Operation Northwoods. Passed it up to President Kennedy, and he fired some people over it. Among them was General Lemniker, who was the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He also swore that he was going to break the CIA into 1,000 pieces. So in 1963, in impossible fashion, he was blown away. Look, people can say whatever they want, but the things that had to happen that day for them to get away with all this says everything it needs to say for us to know that whoever did this is sitting on the absolute highest levels of everything. Look, his parade route had to be changed. Their normal standard safety procedures were not met. The local police were not utilized properly to help check all the windows and make sure everything was okay before they come through. Windows were left open. Procedures were broken, people. And you can see it all the way through the parade route. The parade route was actually changed to run it through that little section where he had to come almost to a stop, turning into Dealey Plaza there. Then there had to be a diversion. When the shots were fired, we saw all the people run. Where to? The grassy knoll, behind the grassy knoll. That's where the shots came from. Most of them came from the grassy knoll. That's where the people were running to. None of them were running to any other area toward any other shot. They were all running to the grassy knoll. I mean, there was really a lot in there. But you see, Oswald was being used. Oswald was an FBI plant. There's facts for all of this. Oswald was actually working for the FBI, and he was giving them information on the CIA. The FBI had been tasked to give them all the information they could on these training camps that the CIA was setting up, like around Lake Pontchartrain, where they were training Cubans, creating a Cuban army for what became known as the Bay of Pigs fiasco. But you see, we had governments pouring billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars, just printing more and more money, because we can do that now with fractional banking. We can just say, okay, give me more, here it is. Give me more, there it is. And so we could spend outrageous fortunes, amassing huge power and wealth, even though most of it was artificial and plundered. But you see, around 1945, a lot of really interesting things were going on. The Nazis were going all around the world seeking items of great interest to occultists, like the Spear of Destiny, for instance. He was quite the occultist. he claimed to have seen the Omega Man, and this Omega Man looked very much what people call today Greys, which looked very much like what Aleister Crowley called demons. They all drew pictures of these same things, and I find that really interesting. At any rate, we had the Theosophical Schools that was raising everybody at the time, a great influence on everybody. Aleister Crowley men and the Theosophical Society were influential to all the royalty in Europe and all the important people in the Americas. It's really interesting. And it seemed like that there was a satanic bent behind most of it. There was a satanic bent to most of it. For instance, Jack Parsons, that we're going to read about tomorrow. He didn't have a degree. He was probably NASA's number one rocket man. They had to kind of like distance themselves because he actually performed magic on government time and on government grounds, out in Area 51, as a matter of fact, where he was performing sexual magic under the guidance, by the instruction of Aleister Crowley. After the dude that invented Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard, ran off with 20,000 of his dollars and his wife. Oh my goodness. And he went on to design the rockets that won the war. Isn't that amazing? So I'm saying all that because, you see, guys, when we look at history, when we look at recent history, we can't look at things as though this is all disjointed, because nothing's disjointed. I wanted to take you guys through the second chapter of Daniel the other day to make a point. The point is this beast, this statue, has been around long before Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar might have been the head of gold, but he had predecessors. And there were people after him. This beast has been around a very long time. When we get to Revelation chapters 13 and 17 and 18, we see this beast has 7 heads and 10 horns. And it says specifically that 5 were fallen. 1 still was, and 1 was yet to come. But look, here's the thing. That's adding 3 more heads than what we saw in that statue. That's only because the statue goes back much further. This beast goes back much further. We're forgetting all about the Egyptians, how they ruled the world. We're forgetting all about the Assyrians, how they ruled the world. We're forgetting all about Nimrod, the mighty hunter in God's face, who created the Tower of Babel right after the flood and was the reason that God had to disperse the nations, right? So this thing goes way back, guys. That's how far back this beast goes. This beast goes clear back to Nimrod. Some people would call him Osiris. They know what they're doing. You see, they have a plan. Their plan is utter destruction. But God's plan is purification, to restore unto himself a family that's chosen to love him. The most the adversary can do is help wash out the ones that choose of their own free will not to love God. But that's why we see an outrage around us today. That's why we see the confusion that we see around. Did you ever think you would see a society so confused that segments of its allegedly most educated people can't define woman? And they do so with a straight face. So this power that we're up against, guys, we read about the statue. Revelation tells us it started with Nimrod and then come down through the Assyrians and the Egyptians. Then Daniel picks it up in chapter 2 and says it comes down through Nebuchadnezzar, that head of gold. And then down through the Medes and the Persians. And then down through Alexander. And then down through Rome. And then down through the different phases of Rome that never dies. The legs of the Eastern and Western Empire, all the way down to the feet of miry clay and iron. They don't mix well together. You know, it says something really interesting there. It says that they mingle themselves with the sons of men there, but they mingle themselves with human beings. What is it mingling themselves with human beings in Revelation? I've just got to ask. What is that even talking about? This beast that is rising before us, my friends, there is no outthinking it. There is no outperforming it. We can only thank God that we've chosen to serve the only one that can protect us from this beast. It's no mistake that this beast is a powerful force of destruction. It's no mistake. You see, he's gone down through the ages, thousands of years, deceiving people. And tomorrow morning, I want to go through some of the things that I think that point out that there are people, the people in power still worship that beast. That the leaders of this world already worship this beast. They already do. This whole thing that's played out is a game of life and death that keeps us under control and keeps them in power. And it's been played for thousands of years, my friend, and we've played right along. And it's playing out to the point to where now we have the power to utterly destroy ourselves. And that's exactly where Satan wanted us to be. But that's exactly where the Lord is going to snatch the victory right out of his mouth. So I know everybody's sleepy. God bless you. Good morning. Have a wonderful day. And try to catch me in a few hours if you can. Love you all very much. We'll see you then. Bye-bye. Good night.